Okay, so what I've got here is the cake mixture, and I've taken a small amount of that and put it in this green dish here, and I'm going to add a small amount of this red Wilton colouring. It's gel colouring, so you literally will need a very, very tiny amount. Okay, so I've literally got this much on the teaspoon. It's the really tip of a teaspoon, and I'm going to mix that in now. So I'm going to start mixing that in, and hopefully we'll get a nice strong red colour. Okay, I've switched to a metal spoon, and this is the colour of the mixture now. And you can see it's a sort of peachy colour. And I forgot to mention that I've put this in the green plastic dish, but in future try to remember to use a china dish or something and not white, just in case the gel colouring stains, because it's really, really strong. Now what I'm going to do with this mixture is I'm going to make the heart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bake this separately, or part bake it, and then I will slip it into the main mixture later on, which is one of the tricks. So I'll show you that in a few minutes after we've got this the red mixture cooked a little bit. So I'll just put that into what I've got here, which is the normal rectangular loaf tin, so it'll be just a thin layer, and then I'm going to cut the little heart shapes out from that, and in the meantime I'll go and find the heart cutter. Okay, so what I've done now is I've used the red mixture. Now these colours I'm hoping are going to go darker after they're baked. So I've spread it out with a spatula so that it's quite an even layer. I'm hoping just to get a layer of cake from which I'll cut little heart shapes. I'm going to put it in the oven. I'll leave this cake mixture to the side. This is going to be part baked, probably about 10 minutes I would say, and hopefully it'll thicken. If not, it'll be about 15. I'll keep an eye on it as I go. Try not to get any of the dye on your fingers, the gel colouring, because that's what it looks like if you do. It's very, very red and stains. So I'm just going to wash my hands and clean up for the moment. So this is the cake tray that I'm using for the heart-shaped sponge. Sweet little tin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to spoon the normal cake mixture into this and just have it ready for the other one where I'll put the little cutouts in, but I'll come back and show you that in a moment. As this is an odd-sized tin in terms of the heart shape, I've greased it up with oil, or you can use sort of margarine or butter and just sort of grease the sides in readiness so that the cake doesn't stick, unlike the other one where I used a lining paper. Now when you transfer the cake mixture into the tray, it looks like this, and I would suggest using completely different spatulas to the ones from before, because if you use the red mixture ones, then the colour may bleed into your mixture, and we want nice, clean, different layers of colour. Now, what I've done is I've just taken the pink cake out from the oven. So what you can see, it's a really thin layer, so you've got to keep an eye on it, and it's kind of half cooked. It's just firm enough. So what we're going to do is what I'm going to do now is take it out of the tray and leave it to cool a bit, and then I'll cut the shapes. And then shortly after I'll pop it into the rest of the main cake mix, which is waiting there at the side in the heart-shaped tray. So what you can see, this is the sort of size of the cake. It's just like a very thin layer of about 1.5 centimetres. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this heart-shaped cutter and cut little pieces of sponge. So what I'm doing now is using this pink sponge, this thin layer, to cut out little hearts. Now I've changed the chopping board so you can see it a bit more clearer. So with the cutter, just cut the sponge to create lots of little hearts, and just get as many as you can out of this piece of sponge. So I'm just going to do that for a moment. Okay, so this is what I've got. I've got the remainder of the sponge mixture, and I've got about 31 little hearts. I'm going to try and roll this together and see if I can get any more. If not, it'll just be sort of discarded because it's kind of part baked. What I have been able to do is, with the sponge mixture, just get it together like that, as if you're creating a dough, and then cut some more hearts out of it and get some more shapes out. So try and get as much use of the pink mixture as you can, because it's just going to go to waste. Okay, so I've got all these little hearts, and what I'm going to do now is put them into the mixture in this tray. So really, if you're thinking about when the cake is turned out of the tray, you'll be slicing it probably this way to give people slices. So what I want to try and do is line up the hearts in the mixture this way, and try and get the, obviously the top, the point to the bottom, and hopefully that what will happen is when this is cut, no matter how you slice it, there'll be a heart across in someone's slice that they take. So it kind of will look like a line of hearts, or one pink line. At the moment the mixture is still quite pink, so it's interesting. If you want it a dark pink, it should go a bit darker in the bake. But I was actually trying to get red, but it seems to have come out pink. So you just use a little bit more of the mix of the food colouring if you want it any darker. So I'm going to do the same here, and try and push them down as much as they can go, because this is the top layer of the cake, and what we ideally want is some batter, not batter, the cake mix over the top. And so what I'll do is I'll use a spatula in a moment and go over the very top. So obviously making a cake like this is considerably more time consuming, because it's a lot more tricky things to do, and you have to bake one piece and then wait, and also making two sets of mixtures. They all take a little bit extra time. Okay, now because I've got quite a few hearts still, I'm going to put some in the middle, so we'll get a double heart effect, hopefully, if any sort of slice is cut out. That's the plan anyway. We'll see when we finally cut the final baked cake out whether it actually works. Some of them have crumbled a little bit. So that's why it's important to half bake the other mixture. Right. So now what I'm going to do is, with the spatula, I'm going to try and coat as much as I can, so that you don't see any pink. So this is obviously so that when the cake bakes and rises. Okay, so what you can see is I've just gone over with the spatula and the rest of the normal cake mix to try and cover up as much of the pink as I can. And that's so that it will bake over the heart shape, so when you cut through the slice it will look like hopefully that the pink is in the middle of the layer. So I'm going to put that in the oven now, and then we're just waiting for it to bake, and then we'll assemble the final pieces of the cake together and do the icing and get the final version. Now this is a little trick that I've done. On the computer I've used Word and drawn some templates of some different shaped heart sizes. So I've done a large one and a small one, basically because I don't have that particular cutter. I've only got these very, very small cutters which I'm going to use for my design as well. So what I've done is I've created this template. I'm going to cut them out with some scissors, and then when we come to ice it later, we can just use them as a design sort of template, like tracing paper. Okay. So I'm going to cut that out first, and then we get ready. Okay, so I've cut these templates out now, so we'll use those in a bit for the icing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create the buttercream icing that will be the filling between the two layers of the cake. So Amy, if you can get the bowl, and with the icing, if you can add the butter to it, please. Okay, so now we're going to use the cake mixer and mix the icing sugar and the butter. So we'll put it on setting 1. Something's not right there. Okay, so keep mixing until the mixture becomes very smooth. And you can see that now with the hand mixer. Okay, so we've got the filling now. So I'm going to just use this, and we've mixed it up. I'm going to spoon it onto the mixture. Sorry, onto the cake. So this mixture was just enough sort of for one filling. So I'll put that recipe amount on the website as well. So we want to get all this lovely icing in. So now what I'll do is I'll use this tool to just smooth it out. You just want it all the way to the edges. Okay, now we're going to take the top piece, and I'm going to put that over the top, hopefully without breaking it, which is the tricky bit. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go round the very bottom edge with a knife and cut off. You can see where it's a slightly wider base, because it slightly overflowed the cake tin. So I'm going to do that first, and then we'll come back to the icing. Okay, so I've just cut this neat, so it's got neat straight edges. Now what I'm going to do is, where it's got any overflow from the filling or any crumbs, I'm going to use a tissue and just clean the serving plate so that it's got a clean finish. So either use a damp cloth or something like a paper towel like this, and then I'll clean it again right at the very end, just to sort of make sure it stays nice looking.